Hi everyone, goodness me, I thought there'd be like 10 of you. So yeah, good morning. I hope we're all having a very lovely, warm day here in Leeds. Today we're going to be talking about the dark web. Now this is, as you heard, this is the 101 track, so it's going to be a very kind of surface level introduction. There's going to be nothing that's particularly technical, nothing too much of a deep dive here. We're just going to, hopefully, you can learn some things and you'll go away with some new information. So just a couple of disclaimers before we do get started. First of all, just the obligatory, my opinions are all my own and nothing I say represents my employer, you know the gist. The second one is, as a talk about the dark web, we are going to be discussing some sensitive topics. So that's mainly like drugs and weapons, but there will be a couple of mentions of child sexual abuse material. So if this is something that might upset you or you maybe don't want to hear about, that's absolutely fine. Please feel free to leave the talk at any time. I'm not going to be offended and I'm not going to hunt you down after and be like, why didn't you leave my talk? Really, and even if you're just like too warm, please don't feel like you have to sit through the whole talk because we're all melting in here today. So, we're going to get started. We're going to talk about some definitions to get us started because I feel like there's a lot of terms that get bandied about. And some people will use like the deep web and dark web interchangeably, and they're not the same thing. So we're going to start with some definitions. So the surface web is your day-to-day internet use. You know, you go on and you use Google or Wikipedia or YouTube. That's like your surface web, basically. The deep web is anything on like the internet, basically, that isn't indexed. So if, for example, anyone in here could go to the Bank of Scotland website, right? But not everyone in here, hopefully, could access my personal Bank of Scotland account details. That's the dark web. So in this case, it's behind my credential. It's not indexed. You can't just Google Jennifer's bank account and you can find out all my information. Same thing with things like if you have like newspaper articles that are behind paywalls, they're not like indexed by search engines because you have to like pay or not pay, depending on how you can maybe get access. But yeah, so that kind of thing is the deep web. It's just things that aren't available, they're not indexed by a search engine. The dark web, which is what we're here to talk about today, is basically websites that you need special software to access. And they're also not indexed. You can't access them using like Google or Firefox or your kind of regular browsers. A lot of the time, this is associated with criminal activity, as we will see. That's the reputation it's got, for a good reason. And the dark web has a really big emphasis on anonymity. So, these special software, the big one is Tor. Everyone talks about Tor. I've got my slides a nice Tor purple today. You also will hear I2P and Freenet. Those are some other ones, but Tor is the kind of the big one that everyone talks about. That's the one I'm going to be kind of referencing today, just so I'm not like spreading myself too thin and trying to cover everything. So Tor was originally created by the US Naval Research Lab for protecting American intelligence. And one of the special things about Tor is that it uses different URLs. So instead of if you were looking up Wikipedia on Firefox, you'd go Google or wikipedia.com or whatever. With Tor links, they end in .onion and they're often quite randomized. We'll see some examples of that coming up. So I mentioned the dark web has a big focus on anonymity, and this is one of the ways it does it. Now, it's never foolproof. As you'll see, we have some examples of some sites that have been taken down and people that have been arrested and things like that. So it's never foolproof using the dark web. Well, we'll take this as an example. So at the top, you can see this browser. That would be like your IP address. If you're going to go on the dark web, I would recommend using a VPN in the first place anyway. So this is your IP address or your representation of your IP address at this browser. So in this case, my IP address is bounced to Germany and then to the Netherlands and then back to Germany, and then it connects to a .onion site on the Tor network on the dark web. And you can refresh this if you think, oh, I don't know about this, I'm accessing some dodgy stuff, I don't know. You can like generate like new connections, and these will bounce like all over the world. And it basically is, the aim of it is to stop these websites being able to see your IP address. So some of these dodgy links that I was talking about that look a bit funny, this is what a link on the dark web might look like. In this case, I've not got up anything dodgy. This is actually the link for the Tor project on the dark web. So if you went to this link on the dark web, you would just see the information for Tor, basically. So the reason that they have these randomized like this is for security, mostly. You know, they don't want it to be, if you're hosting a website that's selling something that you don't want the cops to know about, for example, then you know, it's good to have a randomized thing like this so it's not super easy to find. They also rotate these quite often, so they'll often change. They're not all totally randomized like this though. I've got an example here you can see. So this is the link for accessing Reddit on the dark web. So you can see it's got Reddit Tor at the start, and then it goes on and it's got all the random letters and numbers. So how could you find, if you were a wayward soul and you wanted to go into the dark web and find something, you know, how would you find it? Well, one of the ways that people keep track of all these different links is through wikis. Now, the big famous one is the hidden wiki. There was at one point one hidden wiki, and since then there are now like thousands, and the original one I think got taken down years ago. But you can have all these different ones that are just links to various sites. I mean, what have we got here? We've got, cocaine, heroin, Bitcoin mining, create your own .onion store, UK guns and ammo. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can see, and you can see at the top here there are actually links to like other hidden wikis. So it's a rabbit hole. Once you start looking at this kind of thing, you just go down and find some weird stuff. I don't do a lot, but you can look up. I think John Hammond on YouTube is pretty good for like investigating sites like this. I would really recommend if you're interested. So we're going to talk now about some of the kind of the big sites, big kind of types of websites. So marketplaces are really big in the dark web. You're going to want to buy, don't know what you might want to buy in the dark web. Maybe some drugs you can't get, maybe a gun, maybe some fake passports, you know, you never know. There are two different types of dark web marketplaces. You have escrow marketplaces and auto shop marketplaces. So escrow marketplaces are where you're going to be buying like physical items, like fake passports, whatever. In this case, the escrow basically is that you will have, there's like, if you pay, there'll be like a third party that'll hold the money until like you get, or the whatever is sent, and then it's not, escrow is not like a dark web specific thing, it's just like a kind of financial thing where there is a third. Sorry? Yeah. So yeah, that's one type, and that's normally for buying physical items. And then you have auto shop marketplaces, which are where you would buy digital items. So things like maybe remote access or credentials or financial information. So those are like automatic transactions. There's no third party involved. It's just a straight transaction. When you're buying your drugs or whatever on the dark web, you're not going to be paying in pounds or in dollars or in yen or whatever. You're going to be most likely using some kind of cryptocurrency. Now, you could have a whole talk on cryptocurrency. You could have a whole track on cryptocurrency. I am not the person for that. I know very little. I know just enough to understand vaguely how it works. One of the biggest one that everyone kind of knows about is Bitcoin. That other logo on the other side there, the grey one, that's the logo for Ethereum. So these are cryptocurrencies. Basically, you can exchange your pounds or dollars or whatever and get these cryptocurrencies that are meant to be, again, they're meant to be more anonymous, and in most cases they are, but they can be traced, and there are companies who have set up their whole company as, their whole business as tracing Bitcoin transactions for like law enforcement and things like that. So can anyone tell me what marketplace this is the logo for? Does anyone recognise this? Yes?
Silk Road.
The Silk Road. Brilliant, thank you. So this is one of the most famous dark web marketplaces, the Silk Road. This is what it looked like back in the day. I know it's a really crunchy screenshot, but it's from 2012, so just excuse the slight crunchiness. So this is what it looked like back in the day. It was created by a guy called Ross Ulbricht, and he made this website. You can look into it. It's a long story, but he had a lot of political views about, you know, what people should be allowed to do and what they can put in their own bodies and things like that. So he created this website, and it blew up completely. I mean, most of it was drugs, but as time went on, you could buy other things. I mean, down the side here we have books, computer equipment. I mean, erotica, fireworks, and food sounds like a pretty good night, to be fair. But this is what it looked like back in the day. But it wasn't to last, unfortunately. And in 2013, the Silk Road was seized. Now, at the time, this was like the biggest dark web marketplace, so it was huge investigation to try and take this guy down. I mean, there's so many resources that you can read about or watch videos about this, the Silk Road and the takedown and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it was taken down. Ross was put in jail, and if you follow anything like this, you might know where I'm going with this. In January, President Trump did pardon Ross Ulbricht, and he's now out and about. He was keynoting at Bitcoin 2025, I think last month or very recently. So he's back out and about. This is a lot of the stuff in this talk, well, some of the stuff in this talk, it's very your own opinion, what you think. Did he deserve to be put away? I think he was put away for life or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But, did he deserve it? Did he deserve to be let back out? You know, when you look into it, he didn't just run a dark web marketplace. He also tried to get people murdered and paid for them to be murdered. He thought he was more getting real people murdered. Turned out he wasn't. But, he thought he was getting real people murdered. And now he's back out in society. Yay! It's a personal opinion. A lot of this stuff is really, there's no black and white with a lot of it. These are another two really famous marketplaces, Alphabet and Hansa. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, please look into this story. I don't have enough time to go into all the ins and outs of it in this talk. But basically, these were two big dark web marketplaces that came up in the gap that was left when the Silk Road was seized and Ross was arrested. And essentially what happened is they were both seized by law enforcement around about the same time. And they shut down Alphabet, but left Hansa up. So everyone that was selling and buying on Alphabet went, oh damn, that's a shame, where am I going to sell my drugs now? Oh, Hansa's still up, that's fine, we'll go there. Meanwhile, law enforcement were really controlling it the whole time. So they left it up for a while and they were able to gather a lot of information on people who were selling, people who were buying, moderators and things like that. This is it's like a moral dilemma. How long do you leave a website selling illegal drugs? How long do you let that go on for before you shut it down? So it's another interesting one. This is a really, really interesting video. This guy, Sam Bent, he was a vendor and a moderator on Hansa, and this is a talk from DEF CON a while back that he did. So basically he talks about all of the measures he took to try and not get arrested being on Hansa so much. It didn't work in the end. He did get arrested and he went to jail, and now he's back out and he's doing talks like this, and he's got a YouTube channel as well. So it's a really interesting talk if you're interested in the kind of the mentality behind it. I would really recommend it. So that was marketplaces. Now we're going to move on to forums. So forums are where you're going to see your threat actors chatting to each other. They're going to be sharing some of the things they found during their escapades. Maybe trying to scam each other. You never know what you might find. The two of the big ones, we have Dread on this side nearest me and Breach Forums on the other side. Now with these ones, a lot of the time, I think Breach Forums has been down and come back up and then gone down and then been seized and then someone else has brought it back up. These are never just there is one website called Breach Forums and that's it. It's really complicated to try and keep track of who's owning the websites at certain times and all that kind of thing. But Dread is kind of as far as I know, it's kind of like Reddit, where it's not there's a lot of chatter stuff as well. Breach Forums is a forum quite centred around sharing data dumps and things like that. So Breach Forums kind of filled the gap of Raid Forums, which was a massive forum that was up for a long time, and it was, pretty big. Eventually as well, it was seized. It was seized in 2022, and kind of Breach Forums kind of came in and filled that gap. So some examples of some kind of things you might see. We have SolidBit here. So SolidBit is a ransomware. And in this case, they're looking for an affiliate. They're looking for someone to come and join them. They want someone who's good at, getting initial access, that can get into systems for them. And then they can then set loose their ransomware once they've got access. We've also got this one here, a different type of post from someone else who has leaked the Shanghai National Police database. And it's just saying, hey, look what I've got. Isn't this cool? Do that a lot. Just like, hey, look what I've got. You want to give me some Bitcoin and I'll give it to you, maybe, if you're lucky. So far, we've seen talked about a few different forums, a few different marketplaces. These are the most popular, really big ones. If you Google dark web, those are probably what will come up. Unfortunately, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of dark websites, and many of them that deal with much darker subjects than just like buy a fake passport. So TRM Labs reported in March that over the last 2 years, there has been at least one crypto transaction to a web address hosting child sexual abuse material every 2 minutes. And there will be so much more than we can ever discover and report on in these kinds of scenarios. So with that being said, why can't we just take these sites down? Why can't we just go, right, that site's doing something bad, we want it taken down, let's go, take it down, like that. Why can't we just do that? I forgot I had a slide for that, how nice. Number 1, jurisdictions, how exciting. So let's say you're the British police and someone's come to you and they've said, yes, this website is bad. And you go, okay, and you look at it and you go, right, okay, and you can work out, well, fine. So this is being hosted in France, and servers in France and Germany, and its owner is in, Scotland, and it's got moderators in Sweden and Norway. That then becomes quite a big case. You as the British police or whatever, you can't just go, right, that's fine, I'm going to go to Sweden and arrest this man. You can't do that. It has to then become, if you want to take something like this down, it becomes a big operation. I put back up the seizure notice for raid forums that I had up earlier on, and you might notice that a big chunk of the screen is taken up by the logos of all the different organisations that had to work together to bring it down. So you've got the American ones along the top, the Swedish police, the NCA, Europol, all these different organisations that all had to work together. And this is a lot of money that goes into these and a lot of time. And unfortunately, sometimes when it comes to things like this, the law enforcement and other groups kind of just go, we don't have the resources for that. Which is a shame, really. But it's very difficult. The same thing here with Hansa. The Dutch police were really big, in this case. But again, you can see like American logos, Europol, I think we're also in this one potentially. Yeah, Europol in this one as well. So big. It's very difficult for them to get all of the time and money and collaboration between different countries and departments and whatever to bring these things down. But when they do get brought down, it's brilliant. But it's very difficult for them to put this together. Another reason that it's difficult to take these down is bulletproof hosting. So you have a website, it needs to be hosted somewhere, hosted on a server somewhere in the world. Bulletproof hosting are services, so they host websites, particularly dark web websites, and they're very, very resilient to takedown notices or complaints or law enforcement coming. Normal hosting sites, you get the police coming to be like, hey, I've got a warrant, can you take this site down? They'll go, yes, of course, no problem. Bulletproof hosting sites won't do that. They'll go, yeah, right, whatever, go away. And they just ignore it. Unfortunately, this does lead to some really, difficult situations. One of the really big bulletproof hosting sites that used to be up was one called Freedom Hosting, and they were responsible for hosting over 200 sites that had child sexual abuse material on them. So Freedom Hosting was basically responsible for those sites being able to stay up and to be run. So it was set up in 2008 and it was taken down in 2013. And the owner was jailed for 27 years, which in my opinion is not long enough. But there's not really much we can do about that, unfortunately. But as a result of that being taken down, all of those sites then were also taken down. I'm sure probably many of them went and found other services to host their websites, but they can be brought down. But again, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money that goes into these big operations to take these sites down. So that being said, it's a bit depressing. You can get in a funk if you think about it for too long. Is the dark web all just one big, horrible cesspit of evil? Maybe, but no. I'm going to say no. No, it's not. There are some glimmers of hope amongst the darkness. So one use for the dark web is for journalism and whistleblowing. So in this case, this is literally just like you can go onto Google and type in The Guardian. This is like the Guardian website and the Guardian newspaper. And this is their website. And these are the instructions on how to access their secure drop service on the dark web. So if you've got information about something that you want to share, but you're scared about it maybe being linked back to you, or if you're a whistleblower that's like, hey, I've got this information that I want to share, but I don't want anyone to know it was me, you can follow these instructions, go onto their dark website, and you can anonymously share that information with the newspaper. And they will give you like a unique code, and if you want to, like, if they want to contact you, then they can use that, and it will keep your information more safe than it would be if you just went on using your own IP address and went to emailed The Guardian yourself. This is another one that can kind of be up for debate. So a while back, I can't remember when this was. I should have really written it down. So I'm sure everyone's heard of Anonymous, the activist group. They took down a bunch of sites that had child sexual abuse material on them. Part of their Operation Darknet. But on one hand, you go, great, fantastic, they're taking down these sites, that's good. But then, on the other hand, if, you know, as it says in the article, if these are ongoing investigations, have they now tampered with evidence? Are they now obstructing this case from law enforcement or whoever that's doing the investigation? This was another one, everyone's... Oh my god, I nudged the cable and I've messed everything up.
Unplug it and replug it. It should come back. So that was part of the talk.
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been really good. I should have pretended it was.
Found it out! We've been hacked.
The dark web hackers, they've come for me. Did I do it again?
No. Try it again? Yeah.
We were almost done. This is like my second last slide.
Have you tried turning it off now?
Try go again. It'll be up in a few seconds.
Hey.
I'm sorry, I won't nudge the cable again. Okay, so very recently, part of the Lockbit ransomware kind of association, they were hacked and someone from Prague, don't do crime is bad, kisses from Prague, and they leaked loads of chat logs, basically. So there's a lot of people have been doing a lot of like reading through these and scanning and seeing what they were talking about. So these are a lot of conversations that the Lockbit kind of affiliates workers were having with victims and like talking about how to, you know, like how to pay, and like they have like support, they have like help desk support. That these conversations were. This is another example. I mean, this is someone's gone in and has thought, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to piss off Lockbit. I'm sure that won't have any repercussions for me whatsoever. And they've defaced their site and dumped logs from their like chat help desk, basically. So just some recommendations, because it's one of those questions that I feel is like, it's good to have some recommendations. So in terms of podcasts, I feel like a lot of people know Darknet Diaries, but I recommend it anyway. The Dark Dive is a really good one as well. Books, Jeff White is great. His books, The Lazarus Heist and Rinsed, are both really good. They're about money laundering, but they've got talks about the dark web in them, and The Lazarus Heist is focused on the North Korean state actors, so that's a good one as well. American Kingpin by Nick Bilton. is about Ross Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road. So I would recommend that. Although I read it, right? And you're reading it, and like it's a really interesting book. But you're reading it, and it's like Ross is perfect. He's an angel. And then it's like, yeah, you're also trying to get people murdered. But the way it's written, it's like he wouldn't harm a fly. He just wanted to sell drugs, not sell drugs, but he wanted people to sell all these drugs. And it writes it like he's like a saint, which, depending on your point of view, maybe you'd like that. But yeah, that's my recommendations. And that's the end of my talk with only one technical issue. Brilliant. I'm told I have 2 minutes for questions if anyone does. Hello.
I've got a question. I don't know whether it's feasible or not with the nature of money and food thing or not, but you were talking about takedown, and it'd be difficult to decide, but could the authorities just doss them? Or is that just not feasibly possible because of the way that it's accessible through the data?
Yeah. I have to repeat the question for the recording. So is it possible in terms of these sites for them to just be DOSed and just find out their information that way? So again, I'm not an expert, so I'm not 100% sure how it all works, but I think a lot of the time, or what I've seen, is they can find out, like, okay, so this site is being hosted on, it's this bulletproof hosting server, and we know exactly it's being hosted here in, I don't know, some country, like, I don't know, we'll say Russia, and hopefully they're not listening. But because of, like, the jurisdictions and the way that, like, if a certain country has much more lax laws, even if they know exactly where the server is, oftentimes there's nothing they can do about it. Which is, yeah, unfortunate. They can try, but yeah, that's what I've seen at least. So, any more questions? I think I have like time for one more, possibly. Yes.
Do you know if the dark web uses a separate DNS?
The question is, do I know if the dark web uses a separate DNS system? And no, I don't, is the honest answer. But it would be something cool to look into, definitely. Yeah. Cool. Time! Thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it. It's really warm in here.